All right, so we're diving into something kind of interesting today. Something you guys have probably been seeing a lot of lately.
Yeah.
All these videos from foreign creators, like tons of them focusing on India.
It's definitely a trend.
It is. It's everywhere. And, I'm curious about this because on one hand, it's like cool, sharing different cultures and perspectives.
Right.
But then I also get this feeling like there's something else going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Like something deeper.
Yeah. And, you've been sending me all these articles about it.
Oh, yeah. I've been clicking on all those, Insiders Look at India videos.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, there's this feeling like something else is there.
Yeah, you've been sensing it, haven't you? That there's something a little bit more complex going on beneath all those, those vibrant visuals and the catchy titles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is it? What are we missing here?
Well, it's interesting. It seems like just harmless fascination with another culture might actually be tapping into a much older story.
Okay.
The lingering impact of the colonial mindset.
Whoa. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Colonial mindset. How does British rule from like centuries ago have anything to do with what's trending on YouTube today?
Right. It seems like a stretch, but it's actually more connected than you might think.
Okay. Listening.
So colonialism, it wasn't just about, physical control.
Mm-hmm.
It was about reshaping how Indians saw themselves, how
Right.
they saw their own culture. The British really instilled this idea of Western superiority.
Right.
And unfortunately, that idea didn't just disappear with independence.
So you're saying like even in 2024, some Indians might still see a foreigner's perspective as more valuable
It's an uncomfortable truth, but yeah.
than their own.
Unfortunately, that's what we're seeing. And what this does is it creates this perfect opportunity for what researchers are calling cultural baiting.
Cultural baiting.
Yeah. And foreign creators are picking up on this dynamic, and they are using it to their advantage.
So hold on. Are we saying that like all these creators are intentionally being malicious? I mean, some of them seem genuinely interested in India.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
It's definitely not always about bad intentions.
Right.
But the reality is many creators see India as a massive market. It's a way to boost their views and subscribers.
I mean, it makes sense. India's got a huge online audience, right?
It's huge. So that makes it a goldmine for engagement.
So basically, the colonial mindset makes it even easier to kind of exploit that market.
Exactly.
Like if some Indians are already more likely to value a foreigner's opinion, it doesn't take much to turn their culture into clickbait.
Right. And you see that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like just in the titles,
The title. Yeah, like all those, you won't believe how cheap food is in India. Or like the craziest things I saw in Delhi.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean.
It's all about those extremes, right?
Right.
And, it's a recipe for views, for sure.
Yeah.
But it comes at a cost.
What do you mean?
Well, these videos often reinforce very specific and often very limited images of India.
Okay.
They really play up, the exoticism, the poverty, the chaos. And for Indian viewers, especially younger generations, it sends kind of a dangerous message.
What kind of message?
Well, it's like their culture only becomes interesting or worthwhile when it's validated by a Western gaze.
Oh, wow. So it's almost like India's worth is being measured by how much it fascinates or shocks Western audiences.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And that feeds right back into that colonial mindset.
Oh, so it just keeps going.
It's a cycle that unfortunately keeps reinforcing itself.
Man, this is heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But I think we've only scratched the surface here.
We have a lot more to unpack.
There's so much more to unpack here.
Yeah, we need to dive deeper into how this trend plays out in specific types of videos.
Okay.
And what are the long-term consequences of this
Yeah.
for both Indian viewers and the way the whole world sees India.
All right, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
So, one thing that really stood out to me in the research was how this all plays out with videos about Indian festivals.
Oh, yeah.
Holy Diwali,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Those videos always like explode online.
Oh, they do.
Well, the color and energy.
It's hard not to get swept up in it.
It's beautiful to watch. But I'm thinking about what you were saying earlier about
Right.
the deeper meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if when we view these festivals purely as like a spectacle,
Yeah.
we're missing something crucial.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. These events, they're steeped in history, religious significance, cultural nuances.
Right.
There's a depth there that often gets lost in translation.
So instead of like actually understanding the meaning behind,
Yeah.
viewers are just left with these images of like a crazy paint party.
It's like you come to India,
Right.
it's a nonstop Bollywood movie.
Right. Which, I mean, it's entertaining,
Right.
but is not the whole story.
It completely ignores the cultural and spiritual richness that
Yeah.
makes these festivals so meaningful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I bet it makes it even easier for creators to just unknowingly fall back on stereotypes.
Oh, absolutely. It's the trap of the exotic. They may not be intentionally malicious,
Right.
but by focusing on the most visually shocking or different aspects,
Mm-hmm.
they're inadvertently reinforcing a very limited view of India and its people.
So we've talked about how this can warp the perception of like Western audiences.
Right.
But what about Indian viewers?
Yeah.
Like, how does seeing your culture constantly filtered through this lens affect how you see yourself?
That's a great question, and I think it's a really important one to consider. Imagine growing up seeing your culture constantly framed as exotic, chaotic, or even backwards.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly damaging to your sense of self-worth and
Mhm.
identity.
It's almost like being told your story by someone else, but they're only highlighting the parts that fit their narrative.
Exactly.
Right.
And it can lead to this insidious feeling that your culture isn't valuable or interesting unless it's validated by a Western gaze.
And that brings us right back to,
The colonial mindset.
yeah, it's like this cycle that never ends.
It really is.
So it's a powerful reminder that like media representation isn't just entertainment.
Right.
It shapes how we see the world and how we see ourselves.
Absolutely.
So what can we do about it? I'm starting to feel a little helpless here. Like, should we just avoid all videos about India altogether?
No, it's not about shutting ourselves off from content.
Okay.
It's about becoming more discerning viewers.
Okay, so being critical consumers.
Exactly.
So like what can we do?
Well, ask questions.
Okay.
Challenge assumptions. Look beyond the surface.
What are some red flags that we should be looking for when we're scrolling through these videos?
Great question. Pay attention to the creator's intent.
Okay.
Are they genuinely trying to understand and share Indian culture?
Right.
Or are they just using it for views?
Okay, so like, is this genuine interest?
Yeah. Are they engaging with locals?
Okay.
Or just filming from a distance? Are they providing context and nuance, or just focusing on the most sensational or weird elements?
Okay.
And you know what? Don't be afraid to call out problematic content.
Yeah.
Leave a comment. Share your perspective. Support creators who are doing it right.
Mhm.
Remember, you have a voice too.
So even though it's easy to feel powerless when you're just like one person scrolling through a feed,
Right.
collectively,
Yes.
we can actually make a difference.
Absolutely. It's about shifting the demand.
Okay.
If we stop rewarding content that perpetuates stereotypes and colonial thinking,
Yeah.
creators will have to adapt.
So instead of clicking on those, crazy cheap India videos, maybe we should be seeking out creators who are showcasing the richness and complexity of Indian culture
Yes.
in a more like nuanced and authentic way.
Exactly.
And like supporting Indian creators
Yes.
who are telling their own stories.
Absolutely.
Representation matters.
Yes, both in front of and behind the camera.
Yeah, this has given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I'll be watching videos about India and all cultures
Yeah.
with a much more critical eye from now on.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
It's about becoming more conscious consumers and realizing that our choices have an impact.
Our choices have an impact.
They really do.
Okay, so we've talked about how viewers can be more mindful.
Right.
But what about the creators themselves? Like, what can they do
Yeah.
to make sure that they're approaching this topic ethically and responsibly?
Yeah, that's a key question. It all comes down to accountability, really.
Okay.
Our sources really emphasize the responsibility these creators have, especially those with massive platform.
Right, they have huge audiences.
You're shaping global perceptions whether they realize it or not.
It's true, but let's be real. For a lot of creators, their priority is views and subscribers.
Right.
How do we hold them accountable when their bottom line is clicks and engagement?
Yeah, that's the tough part, right? That's where audience pressure comes in.
Okay.
We've talked about being critical viewers,
Yeah.
but it goes beyond just individual choices.
Oh.
It's about collective action.
So you mean like speaking up, leaving comments, calling out problematic content, maybe even unsubscribing from channels that just aren't getting it?
Exactly. But even more importantly, we need to actively support the creators who are doing it right.
Sure.
The ones who are putting in the work to understand the culture, to engage with locals, and tell authentic stories.
So it's like a two-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Hit that unsubscribe button when needed, but also amplify the voices that deserve to be heard.
Exactly. It's about using our collective power to shape the digital landscape.
Okay.
By supporting responsible content, we send a clear message.
What's the message?
We're not interested in shallow stereotypes or outdated narratives. We demand authenticity.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what would that actually look like from the creator's side? Like if someone wants to make a video about India, where do they even begin?
Well, the sources actually offer some great guidance here.
Okay.
First and foremost, check your intentions.
Right.
Are you genuinely interested in learning about this culture, or are you just chasing views?
So a little soul searching before hitting that record button.
Absolutely. And then it's about doing your homework.
What do you mean?
Research the culture, understand its complexities, and don't rely on those surface-level tropes or outdated stereotypes.
Right.
Engage with local communities, hear their perspectives, make sure you're representing their voices authentically.
So really taking the time to learn.
It's about approaching this with humility and a willingness to learn,
Yeah.
not assuming you have all the answers.
Not going in like an expert already.
Exactly. And finally, remember that your content has an impact.
Right.
You're shaping perceptions.
Yeah.
So choose your words and images carefully.
So much to consider.
It is. It's a lot to consider.
Yeah. But I think this conversation has been incredibly valuable.
I agree.
We've covered so much ground, from the history of colonialism to the power of algorithms to the ethical implications of content creation.
And it all ties together.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
It is, but it's a conversation we need to be having. Because ultimately, it's about more than just videos. It's about how we see the world, how we value different cultures, and how we build a more inclusive and understanding digital landscape.
That's a great point. So what's the one thing you want our listener to remember from this whole deep dive? Like, what's the takeaway?
It's simple, really. We all have a role to play in shaping the narratives we consume.
Okay.
Be critical, be thoughtful, and use your voice to support the kind of content you want to see in the world.
That's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're signing off for today.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. And remember, the learning never stops.